In your sports this hour, Kaizer Chiefs claimed the Nedbank Cup final 2-1 against Orlando Pirates. This happened at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban, ending a 10-year trophy drought. To discuss this and other sports stories, we're now joined by award-winning SABC Sport journalist Thabiso Mosia. Mr. Mosia, thank you so much for your time. So what were your impressions of the tactical approach from both teams in the final yesterday?
Well, good morning, police, and good morning to the viewers. I thought that from Kaizer Chiefs' point of view, their coach, actually, his substitutions really worked, bringing in Duduzi Shabalala as well as Ashley Dupree as well as Mtetwa. You could tell that they brought in some energy in that second half. Chiefs were full value for their win at the end. They were full value for their second goal because before the captain scored, Yusuf Mart, you could see that they were applying a lot of pressure on the Orlando Pirates goal. Even Pule Modi hit the post just before they scored. So I think ultimately this game was probably won on the bench, and credit to the coaching staff at Kaizer Chiefs for making those subs at the right time. As far as Orlando Pirates is concerned, you would have expected their players to be a bit fresher for this game, considering that they made a lot of changes in midweek preparing for the final. But it does seem like even though they were heavy favorites for this encounter, either complacency maybe took its toll considering how they got the better of Kaizer Chiefs in the previous derby. But I did hear the coach speak also after the game, and he feels that maybe the legs are getting heavy at this stage of the season because of the number of games that they've played, having had a deep run in the CAF Champions League, having had a deep run again in this Nedbank Cup also. And he believes that maybe that could have been the difference on the day. But take nothing away from Kaizer Chiefs. It was a resilient performance and a well-deserved victory at the end of the day.
And I know you just touched on Pule Modi. Were there any standout individual performances that shifted the game's outcome?
Well, I do think he was one of those. He was a live wire throughout Pule Modi, always providing a threat whenever he's got the ball and going forward. But I think a lot of credit must also go to the Kaizer Chiefs captain, Yusuf Mart, for that, not only for that stunning goal that he scored, but a goal like that deserves to win any cup final. We've seen him score another long range effort in the Soweto derby before. But ahead of this game, he was coming in under a lot of pressure. He had faced a lot of criticism, especially maybe for a below par performance in the previous derby, and to be able to deal with that pressure as the leader and the captain of this team and to deliver when it mattered the most. I think a lot of credit must go to the captain Yusuf Mart, because he's the first player to be criticized by the Kaizer Chiefs supporters when things don't go well, and that just comes with the territory of being captain of a big club like Kaizer Chiefs. I mean, we've seen the scenes around the country, what this means to the people. Kaizer Chiefs is the most supported team in the country. There's no doubt about that, and it is such a shame that the fans have had to wait for so long for them to lift the trophy, and you do hope that this is a start now of a turnaround at Naturena.
And a decade-long wait it was. And just looking at the overall quality of the final compared to recent years, and also just having looked at some of the events of the week leading up to this all-important final, what do you make of it?
I think for me, the other stars of the show have to be the people outside the field, you know, the police in KZN, the stakeholders that were involved in putting this event together, because during the week there was a lot of frustration, and understandably so, from fans after the ticket system crashed just after going online. I think that tickets were left too late to go on sale. Clearly open tickets, the new ticket provider did not have the capacity to deal with this demand, and it was such an unfortunate debacle. And you could understand during the week the frustrations and the anger from the supporters, because the system had oversubscribed. So there were people whose sales were accepted. They were under the impression that they have tickets for this game, but over 10,000 people had to be told that actually there was an error in the system, and they were not successful in purchasing those systems. So with all that playing and that being in the air ahead of this game. There was a lot of attention on KZN and the police, and I did speak to the spokesperson on Radio 2000 during the weekend. He was confident that they were well prepared. They had presence on the air, they had presence in the ground, and it was really wonderful to see that the final went without any incident. It doesn't take away from the debacle that happened during the week. I still think fans want answers, but I think credit to the police and the security personnel and everybody that worked together to ensure that we had a safe final for the fans that had match tickets and obviously for the players.
And before we jump into our Clásico, I'm keen on finding out, ending this decade-long drought, what does it now mean or signal for Amakhosi?
Well, it should signal the start of a turnaround, like I said. The fans should not be waiting 10 years for another trophy. Kaizer Chiefs, with this victory, have officially qualified for the CAF Confederation Cup, which means that they are returning to continental football. What that also means is that they'll be able to attract players now that want to play continental football, because one of the reasons maybe they were not as attractive in previous seasons is that they're not competing in that space where the likes of Orlando Pirates and Sundowns are competing, and now they are back there. There has been talk, though, and a widespread belief that the squad at Kaizer Chiefs at the moment is not good enough, and you do hope that this Nedbank Cup final win doesn't pepper over the cracks, because ultimately Chiefs have lost 12 games in the league this season. They are ninth. They are still out of the top 8, but you do believe that they can take some confidence now. You do hope they take some confidence from this final, and that they'll be able to bolster the squad and maybe back the technical team and give them the players that they want, like they did with a couple of signing or one or two in January. This should be a confidence booster now for them, and give management faith that the team is on the right track. But having said that, Mpolisi, there's a big story today in the Sunday Times written by a respected journalist, BBK, that despite the success of Kaizer Chiefs winning the Nedbank Cup final, management has already made a call that they are getting rid of Coach Nasruddin Nabi and his technical team. That is in the Sunday Times today, and it is written by a journalist that is well respected, and they always say where there is smoke, there is fire.
Sure, I must say this now throws a spanner in the works, if you may, Tabs. And just moving swiftly right along to our Clásico now, what are the key tactical battles you're expecting to come out of this afternoon's El Clásico?
Well, usually with the El Clásico, you expect goals, but there's a lot at stake for this one, because with 4 games to go, Barcelona currently leading the standings from Real Madrid by 4 points. So Real Madrid have to win this one to close the gap and still give themselves a chance with the last few games of the season left in La Liga to try and topple Barcelona. If they do not beat Barcelona this evening in the El Clásico, then they will fall too far behind to catch up with 3 games left. Barcelona have had a wonderful season so far, despite crashing out of the Champions League in that thrilling tie against Inter Milan, arguably one of the ties of the competition in the entire history of the Champions League. But having said that, they are on a good run in La Liga. They've won their last 4. They've already beaten Real Madrid 3 times this season in the Copa del Rey final. They've beaten them in the Super Cup also. They gave them 4 in the league encounter in the first round. So they will have a lot of confidence going into this encounter. Hansi Flick has done an amazing job with these youngsters in Barcelona. So I think the pressure for me is on Real Madrid. They'll be relying a lot on Kylian Mbappe, who still hasn't beaten Barcelona as a Real Madrid player, as well as Vinicius Jr., and those will be some of the key players for them. But all the pressure for this one has to be on Real Madrid. It's also a farewell for Carlo Ancelotti. It looks like he is on his way out now after Xabi Alonso confirmed that he's leaving Bayer Leverkusen, and he's widely reported to be going back to Real Madrid, but this time as a manager.
That's another big one to look out for, but also just how big of a role will individual brilliance play compared to team structure today?
Yeah, sometimes that's what you need in these games, and hence I mentioned the likes of Kylian Mbappe as well as Vinicius Jr. We've seen Mbappe had a slow start at Real Madrid, but he has started to come into his own now. His confidence levels are up there, and so there'll be a lot of reliance on him to turn things around for Real Madrid, or to carry the team, because we've seen Vinicius Jr. also carry the team last season. But as far as Barcelona is concerned, I mean, the sensation here is young Lamine Yamal. He has lived lived up to his billing. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of comparisons with some of the great players in the past, but we've seen just at the age of 17, the maturity that he has on his shoulders, how if you give him the ball, he can make things happen for Barcelona at any time. So these will be some of the key players in this encounter. And they have been the key players also in previous matches between these two sides. As I've mentioned, they've played 3 times this season, with Barcelona winning all 3 matches.
And just how important is this match in the context of the title race and the overall momentum for the season going forward?
I think already maybe for Barcelona it's been a very good season, considering that it's Hansi Flick's first season. Not a lot was expected from him. He was expected maybe to rebuild this Barcelona team, but they've gone on to win the Copa del Rey. They've gone on to win the Super Cup. They had a deep run in the Champions League, losing to Inter Milan though in that 7-6 thriller in the semi-final. I think they've exceeded expectations this season, and if they go on to win the league, it will definitely be a very, very successful season for Barcelona. But for Real Madrid, all the pressure, as I've said, is on them. They were knocked out in the Champions League, which is usually their bread and butter, by Arsenal. Not a lot of people expected that result, and it led to questions then about the future of their manager, Carlo Ancelotti, and he will be leaving the club now at the end of the season. So they need to win this game. They need to close the gap on Barcelona to at least 1 point before the last 3 games of the season. But as far as the title race is concerned, if Barcelona do get a victory in this one, then I think it's all but done and dusted in La Liga.
And I'm told we now have about 3 minutes left for this conversation, Tab. So maybe just a quick one on what each manager needs to get right tactically in order to walk away with all 3 points.
Well, we have seen in previous seasons, especially in the Champions League, how Real Madrid have been happy to even play without the ball.
Yeah, we can still hear you there. Continue.
Apologies for that. I was saying that we have seen in recent matches, especially in European competitions, how Real Madrid have been happy to play without the ball and absorb the pressure and try and catch teams on the counter using the pace of Mbappe, using the pace of Vinicius Jr. But I think for this one, they're going to have to take the game to Barcelona also, because they need the victory more than Barcelona. So you'd want Real Madrid to play on the front foot. You'd want them to play with intent and to play as the big team, as the Galacticos that they are and that they've been all these years. There is nothing to lose in this one, because they are chasing Barcelona. You can understand if Barcelona are a bit more cautious, because as much as their manager Hansi Flick has kept some elements of the tiki-taka football, he has been cautious also in certain matches. They don't really have to go all out there and beat Real Madrid in this one. As long as they don't lose, a draw will still be a good result for them. So it can be that kind of game. But having said that, though, usually in an El Clásico, as I said in the beginning, you expect both teams to score. And by the way, not just El Clásico, Bafana Bafana is also playing this afternoon. They are in a 10 qualifier against Malawi. So 10 is that competition for domestically based players that get a chance to play at international level. It's the final round of qualifying. Bafana are 1-0 down from the first leg in Malawi, so they need to win today at Loftus to advance to 10.
And Thabiso, just a quick one before I let you go on the Athletics Relays Championships. Which specific relay team do you think has the best chance of standing out at the World Championships in Tokyo, and why? Just a quick one.
Yeah, quick one is that all our teams are through to the final today.